Alright, looks like we are off and away. Everything is smooth, microphone volume is good, music volume is good. Check, checkaroo. Alright, so we're good. Hello, I'm EnviroBoy. This is my channel. It's my channel, not your channel, it's my channel. And we're gonna do some writing. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do some writing. As we always do. Like, I always announce it just in case it's someone's first time coming in here, but it's kind of strange that I do it because there's like never anyone here right when I get started because I just kind of like, boom, go for it. And like, you know, so people kind of come in, or if they're already here, they already know what they're in for. But god damn it, I'm going to announce it every time because I upload the VODs. And that way it's like, I don't know, someone's watching the VOD from the beginning, then they get a nice little intro. It's like if you had a box and there was a little ribbon on it, and then the intro is just like untying that ribbon oh so pleasantly and letting it just like cartoonishly just gently open and make way for the opening of the box that is this stream. And now that I belabored that analogy, maybe we ought to just go ahead and get going here. So, there we go. Alright. So, we've been going through the process of making all of our shops for our city within our campaign, our Novo Torgladny. Right, we gotta make shops. We gotta make shops, and the reasoning behind this, the like wisdom behind it, that I always kind of default to, why I'm taking the time to do this is, it's unlikely that my players will want this level of detail or care about this level of detail for shops. But shops in general are definitely a consistent and important part of D&D. Players will always eventually have gold that they will eventually want to spend on things. And there's one thing that I've learned about D&D in general, and players of D&D, is that they will consistently surprise you with what their goals are, what their motivations are, and what they just generally want out of a game. You might think you know your group, and then one day someone comes in and is like, I'd like to buy a wheel of cheese. Where do I go for that? And in these situations, depending on how you DM, what your style is, it's easy enough to just sort of riff it and be like, yeah, you find a grocery store and they sell cheese wheels. That'll be 2 copper. Right? You can do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the way I like to do my games is I like to really, it's almost a form of messing with my players. But when they do stuff like that, when they get wild and crazy with stuff, I like to be like, yes, okay, so you find Sherry's wheel of cheese, which is a small circular shop, and you know, and like you start to break down exactly, you know, all of the inventory of all the different types of cheeses. It's like, you know, I talked last time about how as the DM you kind of have to be responsible for your own fun in the games, because the inherent nature of playing D&D is that the player's enjoyment kind of ends up taking center stage. And that's not a dig on players or anything. That's just kind of how the game is structured, right? The game is for the players, and the DM is the one providing the game. So there's the tendency for players to sort of view the DM as the computer that provides it. So it's up to the DM to provide their own fun in a lot of ways, to write their own fun into the game. And for me, that fun kind of comes into play when I can catch my players off guard and be like, oh, you think you're clever? You want to have fun trying to stump me? Well, too bad for you. I've already written an entire page on this. You know, I've already come up with everything that you need for this. And yeah, I don't know. That's just, for me, that's the fun part. So that's why I sit here and I go through all of the trouble of making these detailed things. You know, same with making the maps for these shops. Because they're like, hey, how's it going? Gregor Z-Man, how's it going? Gregor's Man? Gregor Z-Man? Hey, thanks for the follow. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here. But yeah, like I was saying, it's like, it's in Greg is fine. That is much easier. I appreciate it. But yeah, it's important to me as DM to always prove that I'm better than my players. and be one step ahead of them. So that's why I add all this detail to these shops, and the reason I do detailed maps to my shops is so that way when my players think they're being cheeky and think they're being clever, and they're all like, oh, well, the magical Mickey Mouse robe or whatever thing that I wanted from the shop is too expensive, well, I'd like to go in and steal it. It's like, okay, we pull up a map, and suddenly they have doors they have to lockpick, and they have inventory they have to search through, and maybe there's a guard, or maybe the shopkeeper sleeps on the floor above. You know, it's like I build in my fun as DM by messing with my players in the way of proving that I am more on the ball than they are, is always sort of my approach things. Would like to buy a cookbook from the bookstore. Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of stuff that I like to avoid, and that's why that's a really good lead-in to what we're starting with, because we finished off last time by we're working with our boat right here. We've got Pebbleheart's Paddlers here, which I'm still just tickled about that name. I think that's incredibly fun for our boat right? And so we've got we made our Udalid Pebbleheart, or Liddy as she's called, our shopkeeper here, our primary boat right, and we mapped out her. Let's pull this open here, loading it up. Bada bing, bada boom. We made our little shop here. It's not the most intense map I've ever made, but it's a nice one. It's serviceable, gets the job done. And now the final thing to do, because we have all of that, is naturally be one step ahead of them and put a goddamn inventory, including rules for how to handle it if they decide they want a custom-made boat. If they want some sort of yacht, I'm going to make sure I've got a system in place for messing with them and making sure that I have rules in place so I can consistently tell them, and just off the bat tell them, they're like, well, I'd like to custom make a boat, and it could be like, okay, well, it's going to take this many days and this much money. What if they want an inflatable ring? I mean, honestly, what I would say is go to the leather worker, because they're going to basically want to get some form of airtight thing, and if they want an inflatable, like if they want little swimmies for their guys, right, so they can toddler bob their way down the river, that's great. Go to the leather worker, he'll waterproof some leather, fill them with air, and bada bing, bada boom, you've got it. See, that's the type of crap, that's the level of DMing that I want to bring to my games, which is why when I'm sitting here making my world and doing my world building, which is really my favorite part of D&D, and why I'm a DM primarily, is because I love world building. Well, that's why I sit here like an insane person and write down a basic inventory, including basic custom rules for custom commissions and crap. So welcome to my insanity. I hope you guys are along for the ride, or are ready for it, because this is what's gonna happen here. So what I'm first gonna do here, let me just try doing here. Okay. One of the best things to do, I find, for these is to come up with the items. Let's see here. I'm trying to remember what the easiest way to do this is, because you want a folding boat. That would be awesome if it was there. But I like to start off, like, let's go to items here. It's not going to put it in the items. We'll figure this out. Okay, let's go away from the search. Let's just look at game rules and go with equipment. Oh, wait, no. We got to go to vehicles. Dadoy. Just waiting your first session as a DM, expecting to be a one-shot. Players want a full campaign. That's how they get you. Greg. You fell for it. You fell for the oldest trap. You demonstrated that you were willing to be a DM, and now you will do it forever. And you don't have a choice. That's how it happened to me. The first game, hey, it's the Chocolate Muffin Queen, my favorite queen of any that I've encountered. But that's how I started DMing. It was, I can't even remember how many years ago it was, but I offered to DM a session. And, like, it had to have been, okay, hold on. Let me actually think about this. The first game I DM'd, that was when I was in grad school. Grad school was a 3-year process for me. And it's been 3 years since I graduated. So it was 6 years ago. 6 years ago. 6 years ago. I am still DMing for some of those same people and for new people. I've got multiple games that I DM. It never ends. It never ends. You'll be a DM forever. Luckily, I'm a world builder. I love it. I think it's really fun to create a wacky, fun, interesting, immersive world for people to play in. And it's great fun. I love it. I absolutely love it. But yeah, no, it's game over for you, Greg. Like almost literally, because you will not be a player anymore. You will never be a player, because every time a new group starts up, everyone will be like, either they will be, I don't know how to DM. You do. Please do it. Or they'll be like, oh, but you're so good at it, and they'll ask you to DM. So, pour one out for our fallen brother. But also, welcome to the DM Club. We don't have t-shirts, but generally speaking, people will bribe you with snacks and stuff, so, you got that going for you. Okay, we gotta find out how much different boats cost. Hold on, let me just tag it with, like, a boat. See what kind of boats. Keel boat and a rowboat. Those are the only 2 boats they've got. That can't be true. They've got more boats, don't they? Let me try doing vehicle. Wait, I'm in the vehicles section. That's stupid of me. Hold on. Hold up a second. Don't pay attention to what I was just doing. Is that my shop template? Yes, it is. It is. Up here we have our standard operations where we talk about our shopkeeper, and we put in some details about our shopkeeper. We put in some details about how the community in general feels about the shop, just so that way if my players go real nuts and like they steal from the shop or they blow it up or something, because it will happen. Players do all kinds of crazy stuff. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes accidentally. But I always do some basic community stuff, so there's this understanding of how do people feel about the shopkeeper and the shop in general. Because it's kind of like, you always hear about that story about how, like, the one town is going to get its first sex shop, and everyone's all like, oh, God, the children! But then they open up the Dollar General, and they're like, what a great idea! Right? That's just how it goes. It's like, I like to have the same general stuff in here prepped. And then we go down to the important part, which is inventory, which is where, as I mentioned before, I just sort of let my crazy person go nuts, and we create as detailed of an inventory as possible. So that way when my players think that they're being clever and they're all like, oh, well, what about this item? I can be like, motherfucker, I've got rules for this. And I can riff this without even having to break my own consistency. So, real question is the shop template available for you to pilfer? You don't have to, not necessarily if you roll sleight of hand. So these are templates. I've got templates for most scenarios, right? You can see I've got a lot of templates going along here. And I have been asked on many occasions if I have these available. And one of these days, am planning on making them available. I promise you I am. My life is extremely busy, and it's lucky if I have a half hour to breathe at any given time. But I do intend to one of these days make them available. So if you ever just if people keep pestering me about it, I say that maliciously, but actually I'm very flattered that people are interested in it. Yeah, no, I do intend to. The hang up really is I want to provide them in the OneNote template rather than trying to copy and paste them into Word. I want to figure out how I can share a OneNote notebook, like an entire notebook. And I imagine it's really easy, but I don't inherently know how to do it, and I don't know the best way to sort of disseminate it. So I'm imagining one of these days I'll finally just take the hour it'll take to figure out how to compile all my templates into just a single OneNote notebook for people to use. And then maybe I'll figure out how to template them into Word documents or something just so there's multiple formats available. But I'll figure out how to do that and then just realize that it's really simple, and if I just put it in a Dropbox format, it'll be really easy for people. I'm almost positive that's exactly what it'll do, what it'll entail. But as I've never done it before, I don't know how to do it offhand. But just click file share. See, I told you it would be simple. I told you it'd be simple. So one of these days I will get it going. Because I have been asked that many times by people. The one thing with the shop, I will tell you, some of these rules, especially for the commission details, are heavily based on how I balance economy in my games. that might not be relevant for everyone else's game. Different people like to have different approaches to how to handle costs of items. And so I highly encourage anyone who's looking at my cost and time equations and calculations to take it with a big, giant spoonful of salt, because it's going to be very different based on how accessible you want items to be in your game. But I don't know. Tangent aside, one of these days I will get it going. If you would like to be more on the ball and more available to pester me and bother me to finally figure it out, I do have a Discord server, and you are more than welcome to join that and just like bother me about it, because I guarantee you that's probably what'll get me to do it finally, is people just bothering me about it to the point that I'm like, all right, I will do it. But like genuinely, it's very flattering to me. I think it's really awesome that I've created stuff that people are actually interested in, because I never did it with the intent of sharing it. I was just like, this would make it easier while I'm writing, and I did that. So one of these days it'll happen. Started using OneNote for campaign. Yeah. OneNote is a wonderful tool. And getting the flow right is entirely a practice or like a trial and error thing. You just got to use it, and then after a session you realize, oh, okay, this was a little clunky. I'm going to move this to here, and I want to organize things this way. And that's kind of how I came upon the templates. This is just like after years of trying to use OneNote and trying to write different things, I've kind of come upon the system that works best for me. And so I've created templates that can really streamline the writing process for me. But I definitely recommend OneNote. It's the easiest way to consistently organize your stuff. And what's beautiful about it is because of OneDrive and all of that stuff, you can have it on any device that you have. So like for me, I've got my laptop, which I don't prefer to work on. But when I'm traveling or something and I want to do a little work on my stuff, like, boom, open up OneNote, it's there. It's wonderful. I highly recommend it. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly, Greg. It's like, that's why I have the templates. So that way I'm worrying less and less about, like, trying to remember what details to put in there, how I want things to look, and it keeps everything consistent. And I just like fill in the blank like it's a Mad Lib or something like that, right? And so it makes the process easier, and it does actually streamline your DMing process, because then no matter what page you open up, because everything is formatted the same, you know exactly where to look for the information you need. And that's the biggest benefit to it, of having these templates and having that consistency, is because you know no matter what, like, oh, I need to go to a different character to find this information, but I know exactly where on the character notes page to look to find this stuff. So, yeah, I highly recommend OneNote, and one of these days I'll provide my templates for other people. But for the time being, right now, I'm gonna look for water and boats here. Let me try just doing water. Let's do it this way. Here we go. See, this is what we're looking for. Look at all these boats. Look at all these boats for, like, the inventory. So for the inventory, I think the only common one they're going to have, like, standard inventory, is there are always going to be probably a couple rowboats available. You know, that's just how it's going to be. So always there'll be a rowboat, right? And the cost there, and for these things, I always just stick with the rules as written for costs of existing items. It's just easier. Sometimes I question the consistency of the costs of things, but you know, I don't overthink it, especially in this type of situation, because hold up, let me see. This is now you guys are. I'm gonna let you guys go ahead and see exactly how much of an insane person I am. So I'm working on a boat right in a town that is servicing just this lake. Just this little lake. Granted, there's an important part that there's an important story beat that's going to happen over in this lake, so they probably will need a boat. But just think about that. This isn't a coastal city. This isn't a pirate-themed campaign. This is a campaign that primarily takes place in plains, mountains, and forests. And still I'm making a boat right. Because I'm a crazy person, and I cannot leave well enough alone. I need to add this detail, and I need to make things harder for me. But god damn it, I'm a world builder, and I like to think of every potentiality. I enjoy adding this level of detail and love and care into my worlds and my games. So here we are. Also, this campaign is just one that I'm building presently without any intent of using it anytime soon. So I can take all the time that I want making it. If you are in a situation where you are prepping for a campaign that's going to start in 2 weeks, I highly encourage you to not focus on making an erroneous boat right, and instead make sure all of your story beats, or at least the first couple of them, are ironed out. But that's not what we're doing today. That's just not what we're doing today. So, standard inventory, rowboats. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot else that's standard inventory, because everything else, let's see, let's sort these by cost. This will be the easiest way to do it here. So the water skin and the holy water. I do like the idea of like a holy boat or something, because it's like you could have them flip a coin, 50-50 chance whether or not it's like holy as in godly or holy as in a shitty boat that will sink in 10 minutes. It's the problem you're having. I know, it's the problem I run into all the time. I'm assuming you mean the not having a boat with holes in it, but but getting distracted with the minutia when you've got more important things you need to get done. Yeah, no, I feel that. I feel that. Absolutely. Absolutely, I feel that. All right. So for uncommon inventory, so the uncommon inventory is always things that are like 50-50 chance of being in stock. They're just things that I always am like, you know, if the players ask for it, it's like, yeah, flip a coin, see if they've got one in stock. And for a boat right, that's going to be most things, because really the only reason they would just have something other than a rowboat in stock is because for some reason someone didn't pick up a commissioned boat, right? They're not just like, I don't know, this is like this is a boat right that services a single fishing village by a lake. Anyone who needs a boat probably has a boat already. So it's not like this is a leisurely vacation town that needs to have a yacht salesman ready to go at any given time. You know, like basically whenever there's anything other than a rowboat that someone just is like, hey, my rowboat just like we ran it to a rock, I just need a spare one so we can go get our catch for the day. Other than that, it's like a very specific thing that someone is asking for. So like it's not very likely that there'll be a whole lot of, you know, long ships laying around here. So what I'm going to say is like a keel boat, long ship are available, and then a sailing ship I'm going to say isn't necessarily available. That'll be a special request, probably because the way they would go about it is essentially take a long ship and then slap a sail onto it. But, you know. So let's go ahead and do our keel boat here. Keel boat. And we'll stick with our 3,000 GP price point, and then we'll have our long ship, which is our 10,000 gold price point there. And then special requests, so they can order these things if they want to, and they'll be there. Building boats to avoid taxes. Yeah, that'd be. I'm not sure how that would work. A nice gold laundering system in boats. There's always money in the yacht, and it's like the Arrested Development joke about there's always money in the banana stand. They literally just like keep sacks of gold in between boards of the ship. The ship is gold trimmed, so that way like all of the money is just in the trimming, and it's really exclusively there, so they can pull off the gold and use that, and let's like stamp out some coins and use it that way. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I've never really thought about how one might cheat the IRS through boat building. It's not really a relevant part of my life. I wish it was. It'd be awesome if I was that rich, but. So a sailing ship, 10,000 GP, and then like I love the concept of a warship or a galley, because when you think about the size of our town here and the size of this lake, it just amuses me to think about like that ship would like take up the entire lake. It would be just like a big ship just sitting there in the lake. everyone would always see it, and it'd like be just kind of not functional and worthless. But god damn it, if the players want it, they can get it. They can get it, and that would be, I mean, who am I to tell my players what they can and can't do? I'm the DM. It's exactly my job to tell them what they can and can't do. But I will not tell them that they cannot have a warship in the middle of the Golden Wind Plains if that's what they want. Because that's the kind of DM I am. I am the DM. I'm a DM that cares, and a DM that would love to watch them waste all their money on something stupid and just say, hey, you wanted this. I'm an enabler, is what I am. Charge for galleon, then add extra charge for moving it from the lake. Yeah, 100%. It's it costs 100 gold per mile of movement. That'd be really funny. No, I like to imagine that I'm just an enabler of both good and bad things within my worlds and within the game. They can do whatever they want. Okay, so let's see here. So now we don't need any of these things. We really only need vehicles, right? So item type. Let's see here. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to say. So I always do. So for my creation times, what I do, whenever they're commissioning something, I always add a certain amount of variability just to simulate the concept of like backlog. So it's like it just kind of lets it be random and up to chance. But like sometimes you go to commission something, sometimes you order something and they're like, look, we're booked up for the next 3 weeks, but we can pencil you in this time, right? So I always do that to randomize it, and like the more intense the item is, the bigger the die for rolling will be. So for an entire boat, right, D12 plus 6 days, I think that's pretty reasonable. Anywhere from like 7 to 18 days, depending on how backlogged they are to build boats. Granted, it's a business, and depending on how small the boats are, it might only take them a day or two, because that's what they specialize in, but I don't know. Just seems reasonable to me. And also, it ultimately doesn't matter, because I highly doubt that this will ever be relevant, but damn it, I'm going to be prepared for it. So here's what we're going to do here, just to simplify things, or it's kind of actually the opposite of simplifying, because I'm adding multiple things here, but what we're going to do to make it realistic, we're going to say standard / uncommon inventory boats. Cost, I'm just going to put in C above. So if the players are like asking for a specific type of boat, what I would do as a DM is I would just think about which one it's closest to, and just for consistency, god damn it, I gotta add the comma there. I would add, or I would look at what is the most similar, in this case, boat type, and just kind of work off that, plus or minus 1,000 gold or two, depending on what they're doing in reference. And like kind of handle the price and actually the creation time. I would do that as well. And what I'm going to do is for like the standard and uncommon ones, I'm actually going to reduce this, and we're going to make this a 1d8 because they're smaller ones. And then we're going to do another row, and we'll say special requests. Oops. So special, it needed another P. Special requests, and we'll say C above. And this one we'll do our 1d12. Plus 6 days. I almost want to say like 2d12, honestly, for something massive like that, but we'll just kind of stick with that. And then if it feels weird to say like, yeah, we'll make an entire galley in 7 days, then we'll be like, eh. In fact, actually, I'm going to change that. What we're going to do is we're going to say 1d12. I'm going to say 1d12 plus 15 days. Like, let's be real. Let's be real. That shit's going to take a long time to build. Shit's going to take a long time to build. So 1d12 to get through the backlog, and then 15 days at least to build a galley. I mean, realistically, it would take longer, but this is a world of magic, so we can bend the realism just a little bit. Just a little bit. Plus, we don't want to make it so long, because then either it defeats the purpose of them being able to purchase it, or we just sort of erroneously time dilate a few months and then it's not a big deal. So I want that time difference to be something they have to factor in, but not to the point that they just forget about it, is the trick. You want to irritate them, not make them quit. That's what you want there. I want to put a cannon on a rowboat. Yeah, probably. My players would 100% ask to do that. 100%. Absolutely, they would ask to put a cannon on a rowboat. And my response would be, okay. And then maybe have them roll an intelligence check just to see if any of them's like, guys, this might not be a good idea. You know, or maybe offer up that, like, this might not be the best idea from, you know, from Liddy here, our boatwright. And then if they did it anyway, I would, the first time they fired the cannon, I'd be like, okay, smashes through the back of your boat, and it's now sinking. It's a damn cannon on a rowboat, you idiots. Like, what did you expect? The fuck did you expect? It's 100% something my players would do. And they would do it half aware. They would do it half aware that this was going to end terribly, but they would do it anyway, because my players are absolutely the do it for the lols kind of players. Which I think is great. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I think it's hilarious that they do that crap. But, yeah, it's 100%. They get themselves in trouble so much because of that type of attitude. But, you know what? They come by it honestly, and they deal with whatever the consequences are. So who am I to give them too much shit about it, you know? It's like, hey, if that's what you want. Using the cannon as a propulsion system. I mean, if they wanted to try it, I'll let them try it. And you know, sleep in the bed they make. All right, so we're gonna copy a link to the page. Now this is finished, and we're gonna come over here and just boom, and now we got a clickable link to it right there. I mean, come on now, isn't OneNote just the best? So that, oops, so we want to come here. So okay, so we got those shops taken care of. Now, yeah, so because this is a small town, I set up the shops, the shops that one can expect to find in it, a little differently than I might normally, because like I might normally separate out for the fun of it and have like a Fletcher and a weapon-focused blacksmith, and then an armor-focused blacksmith, or a blacksmith that focuses on weapons and armor and stuff like that. But the way I broke it up is I've decided to do like a weaponsmith and an armorer. So both of them have skills as awesome. Welcome to the Discord. At some point, probably tonight, I will get you verified and get you in and participating. But thank you for joining. I appreciate that. That's super cool. It's a small community, but it's growing. It's growing, and it's kind of fun. I think it's really cool that people are like interested in that. I never expected that when I first started streaming. It's really cool. So, but yeah, I set up both of you. You guys are super awesome people. You guys are rad, and I appreciate each of you. But yeah, so I broke up my shops a little differently in this one. Like I say, normally I would subdivide them a little bit more. But this is a small town. The story of this town, right? This whole area is largely uninhabited by like sentient, you know, aware, non-evil people. And what's happening is they're trying to build a trade route through a very dangerous part of the world. And so they've created this small town as a way to service this effort to build a trade route, which is currently at this level of progression. Because the furthest one is like over a week away heading north. So like resupplying the adventurer that's trying to make progress on this trade route was becoming difficult. So this town was founded explicitly to serve them. So it's a small town, bare bones, just getting started. And because of that, I wanted the atmosphere to feel a little more hodgepodge, a little more small and narrow. And so that's why I've kind of I've put together a lot of these shops in ways that I might normally subdivide them a bit more. So that's why it's just like all weapons are in one shop. They've got a blacksmith, they've got a wood carver, you know, they've got a leather worker that work in the weapons. They specialize in making weapons. And then same with the armor. They've got like a you know, someone who's good with leather, someone who's a good blacksmith, you know, and they work together to create all of the armor you might need. And that's just how I did it largely for an atmospheric approach is kind of what I was looking for. But yeah, so we finished up these ones. So yeah, let's just keep going down the list. Let's make ourselves a nice weaponsmith. So we're going to copy our shop template here. Just come over here, paste it. So we got a new shop template here. And so to start, the first thing that we want to do is we want to come up with the owner of the shop. And I have not thought a single little bit about what the owner of the shop would be like. So here's what we're going to do. Fantasy name generators. Highly recommend this resource for anyone trying to do any sort of world building. It's one of my favorite resources. Let's see here. Hold on a second. Just refilling my beverage here. Boom. Alright. Awesome. Yeah. No, it's become a pretty well-known resource. I feel fantasy name generators here, and why wouldn't it? Like, look at all of these damn options for like hyper-specific names for hyper-specific situations. It's so cool. It's so cool. I love it. I absolutely love it. All right. So let's go ahead and do. The sort of theme. So when I'm doing my world here, I can show, just because it's fun and I love showing it off. I'm gonna pull up my whole world map here. Come on, load it up. It's a big thing. I love Wonder Draft. I absolutely love Wonder Draft. It's a great thing. This is my world, right? And so we've got our major cities kind of dotted around here. And as a fun way to sort of add a sense of, just like, I guess just the way to describe it or the way to explain it is, I like to make sure that my players can have sort of a clear visual image in their head about what the atmosphere and environment of a city is, beyond just like medieval thatch roofs, right? Because I feel like that gets kind of bland if every city is set up, you know, like if every single one of your cities is essentially set up to be, you know, your generic medieval city with a castle and whatnot. So like what I do is I describe all of my cities as having an atmosphere similar to, you know, that's along the lines of a real region in the world. So it's like one of the cities has a very American feeling. One of them has a very, like, you know, like European, as in like medieval England feel. Excuse me. One of them is an Egyptian themed one, like ancient Egypt. So the city that we're working on originates from, I'll stay here actually. So we're setting up down in here, and they originate from this city, Fosvik up here, which is meant to have a very Russian sort of feel to it. So because of that, it's a long explanation for why. Oops, wrong one. I want this open. I'm going to go to the Russian names. We're going to find some Russian names. That makes it really, really fun. Yeah, making the maps is really fun. I love Wonder Draft. Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, this world is one that I have been working on for, at this point in time, I guess I could say it's been at least a decade that I've worked in this world, because I first started world building and doing like a fantasy world in like, it was like late high school, early college, around then when I really started getting into it. And so I've always just kind of had in mind that it all takes place in this one singular world. Everything that I write kind of comes into play, you know, in one world. And I've just sort of, you know, over the years have kind of compiled and built this world, you know. So this is Zaoria, as I call it. This is my little world here. And I am very emotionally attached to Zaoria, because it's my baby. It's my little baby, and I've written so many things in it. And I always, I don't know, it's my favorite. It's my favorite project that I've worked on as far as writing goes. I have a lot of projects that I'm constantly going on with. Well, I guess I'll say it's tied, because I also have a universe for like more sci-fi based settings that I've worked on that I absolutely love. but I just don't use it as much these days. I mean, with the boom of D&D, all my friends just kind of want to play D&D, so I don't have as much use for my sci-fi universe that I've worked at, that I build. But I mean, I could talk for hours on what I've written in the sci-fi one, but I'm a little detached from it these days. I just don't spend as much time writing in there. But yeah, that's my world. I love it. I love my world. I love correlating IRL cultures, different races in the worlds. Like Merfolk and Sea people are Korean. Oh yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I feel that. I feel that. It's like it's a more person-centric version of the way I do it. I always do it like locationally. But no, I feel you. I feel you entirely. And I feel like there's a tendency just in fantasy in general to do that. I mean, you know, your dwarves always have that like Irish, Scottish type of, you know, attitude about them, whereas the humans always have like the highborn English, you know, atmosphere about them and all that kind of stuff. It's like it's a very common thing. I always do. I like to do it more regionally, just because for me to be able to facilitate players doing whatever they want with like all the different types of races and characters they could use within D&D, I tend to have I have all of the real world correlation be more location based, so that way they can plop down whatever creature they want in any area, and they can just sort of like, it can be extra fun to sort of have like a Russian centaur, you know, or like, or a Japanese gnome or something like that. Like I don't know. That's the way I do it. But I think there's a lot of different ways to go about it, and I think I don't know. I just think it's really cool to hear how other people do it too, because other people have such cool ideas, and it's fun. It's one of the reasons why I really want to get the Discord to slowly grow, so that way we can like share ideas and thoughts on DMing beyond just the scope of what I'm streaming. Because sometimes people will share such cool ideas, and it's always a shame because it's like they just kind of die in comments and, you know, off they go into the ether. But it's like if it's on the Discord, then we can pick it back up later, because there's just so many cool ideas that I love discussing with people, you know, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to be able to build slowly eventually one day. But for now, we need to have our weaponsmith here. So what I'm feeling with a weaponsmith, the way I've got this shop, because there's going to be so many specialty things, I actually feel like I kind of want to. What I want to do is I want to put together one like primary foreman, so to speak, of the shop, who's sort of like the generalized like head manager of the shop, like the owner of it, and maybe he specializes in like leatherworking type stuff or something like that, but then employs a handful of other people that specialize in different things. So what I think I want to do is like flesh out our foreman, but then just like as a side note, put in a couple other employees, so that way I can be prepared if players are like, oh, I'd like to specifically talk to this guy, or if I come up with a mission that's like specifically needs a blacksmith to provide it, I can kind of have the framework ready to go for it. I'm not gonna go into the level of detail that would have me like fully fleshing out characters for every single employee of every shop. But the way this one's designed is I think some of the employees of this shop will deserve a bit more detail than just, you know, shop employee number 3, shop employee number 4. You know, because like with the boatwright, you can kind of get away with that. Like, of course, there's going to be other people, but they're all just like woodworkers working under Liddy to provide like just one common product that the store provides. But in this situation, because all kinds of different weapons, there's going to be all kinds of different people with different specialties, right? And so, like I said, there's going to be like a wood carver for like all of the bows and stuff, the bows and the arrows. There's going to be like a metal worker for the metal parts of it, and there's going to be a leather worker for making the handles and the straps and the sheaths and all that kind of stuff. And so there's at least 3 people that work in the shop that are like specialists of sorts. And I don't know, like for when I'm thinking about what I want to be prepared for whatever ridiculous things my players come up with. I feel like at least having a name for them is going to be helpful. So I'm probably being paranoid. But for our foreman anyway, I don't know. I'm feeling a dude for this one. I'm feeling like it's a dude for this one. I don't know why. It's just that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Maybe it's because I am a guy, so like if I'm thinking about a random character, I lean towards thinking about guys. And I did also, you know, I made Liddy, so it's like if I'm just going boy, girl, could go back and forth here. I don't know. I'm overthinking it, which is what I do. Welcome to my stream. I overthink it. No, really. You overthink it. You're adding this much detail to your shops and you overthink things. Never would have guessed. Anyway, it's a dude. I don't know. I look for names that look fun. And I do my best to make it at least difficult for my players to come up with a stupid pun to rename them with. Because, you know, players, they're assholes. They're immediately going to try and come up with some sort of, like, pun or joke for any name of any character. Which is why I highly recommend always just randomly generating your names. Never trying to come up with a name on your own. Especially a name that has some sort of, like, hidden meaning or definition. Unless it's important for, like, you know, unless you are really determined to have a specific name for the whole campaign that goes, right? Because, like, there's a clue in the campaign in their name or something like that. Unless you're doing something hyper-specific like that, don't come up with meaningful names because your players will be assholes and they will come up with a pun to make fun of it. It will happen. I can guarantee it. I guarantee it. It'll happen. So it's just better to randomly come up with a name, and then I like to come up with names, if I can, that are simultaneously difficult to say and don't lend themselves well to punnery. So that way they're stuck just sitting there like, oh shit, we got to figure out how to actually say this guy's name because I can't think of anything fun or stupid. You know, that or just something that's extremely bland, like Adam. Adam is great. You can just do Adam. Yeah, this is Adam. It's like, what the fuck are they going to do with that? They're going to be like, oh shit, it's just Adam. It's like Bill in Pokemon. They got all these wacky, wild names, and then there's Bill. It's like, great, it's Bill. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Sokolowski. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's a cool one. There's all kinds of good names in here. Basically, I don't have necessarily a really good approach to it. I just keep going until I find one that I really like. Gorshkov. Bogomolov. Vinogradov. That one's kind of fun. Nuriev. I like Nuriev. Nuriev. That's a good one. I'm going to do that. We're going to start with Nuriev. That's his first name. Let's write that down so I don't forget that. So we're going to come up here. Owner is going to be... Shit, how do you spell it? Wait, where'd it go? N-U-R-I-Y-E-V. N-U-R-I-Y-E-V. Nuriev. Pronunciation. Yeah, no, pronunciation is important. Because, again, if we're trying to avoid puns, pronunciation is important. You want to play around with the word a little bit, because sometimes if you just mispronounce it or go, like, too phonetic or not phonetic enough with how you pronounce things, that is what gives birth to a pun in a name. And so it's important. Even if you intend to have a pun, it's an important part of it. So we got Nuriev Mikhailovich. Oh, I like that. Nuriev Mikhailovich. God, I'm probably offending anyone with any sort of Russian nationality or ancestry by just absolutely butchering these pronunciations. But it's so fun. It's so fun. Nuriev Mikhailovich. I like that. Mikhailovich. I'm going to do it. Mikhailovich. Whoops. Nuriev Mikhailovich. And now's the fun part. Is when we got to come up with a fun name for this weapon shop. It can help a little bit to think about who our shopkeeper is. In fact, maybe I'll do that. Maybe we'll come up with a shopkeeper and see if that lends itself to a name. Because it's like, you know, I mean, like, let's think about... So, I only have, like, one specialty named... Why did it... Weird. I have no idea why AutoMod flagged that one, but I'm going to allow it. That's really weird. I don't know. That's 100% allowed. Do I put down the race? Yeah, I'll usually include race. You know, we've got don't apologize. I don't, it's weird. AutoMod is weird sometimes. It's getting better because it's learning, which is a little concerning in and of itself. The robots are taking over, but it's fine. Yeah, I usually include the race because a lot of it will inform sort of their history and their personality in a lot of ways. So it's like, to give an example of what I mean. So within this, in this campaign, this world that we're working with, right? This mountain range was once a pretty prominent mountain range owned by the dwarves. But then, oh so long ago, the unhinging happened in this world, which is sort of a calamity type event, you know, an end of the world apocalypse type of event. And because of that, you know, in which all kinds of tears in reality opened up, letting in all kinds of different magical radiation and type of stuff. And so because of that, the dwarves kind of had to flee their mountainous tunnels because they became filled with all kinds of horrible monstrosities. And so, thank you. Yeah, the unhinging, the name of the unhinging came about because I wanted to come up with some sort of like cool historical title for the event that wasn't super derivative or taken already. So it's like I couldn't do the happening, right? Or I couldn't do the calamity because everyone uses the calamity. So I came up with the unhinging, and I've grown quite used to using it. But yeah, so during the unhinging, the dwarven lands became, or the dwarven tunnels became incredibly uninhabitable, and the dwarves fled, and it was taken over by Duragar, who were corrupted. Basically, they were dwarves that couldn't escape, that became corrupted by that magical radiation, is sort of what the Duragar origins are in my world. And so what's happened is, with this, most of those dwarves fled up to Fosvik, our city that's up farther north. That's where this whole initiative started. And so when the call came out to establish a city right at the base of the mountains, a lot of dwarves took up the call because they were hoping that once this project was done, once their like contract to help with this project was done, they would have then the opportunity to mount their own, you know, the Hobbit-style effort to reclaim their mountainous homes. You know, so it's like, so it matters if a shopkeeper is a dwarf, because it's gonna really, you know, it's gonna really inform who they are as a person. It's going to inform, you know, like I talked about, how the community views them. It's gonna inform what their activity in the community, what type of company they keep in the community, all that kind of stuff. It really plays a role in sort of the overall feel and demographics of a city. You know, and so for the shopkeepers, yeah, I usually do include some sort of race notes in there. One day you called it the Cataclysm. Cataclysm's a good one. That's a good one. There's just, you know, you break out your thesaurus, and there's so many fun words that you can use for like important titles of events and stuff. I have a lot of fun with that kind of stuff, for sure. But yeah, so it's like, that's the specific context for the city. But I always try to include that type of history because I have some players that do genuinely get into that kind of stuff. They really like it, you know, and it's kind of, as far as, you know, surviving the dungeon and finding the treasure, you know, and that kind of stuff, as far as that goes, it's pretty inconsequential. But if I have that stuff prepared, one, going back to what I really opened up the session talking about, of the DM, it's kind of on you to write your own fun into it because games are naturally player-centric, right? And so for me, that's fun stuff. But the other thing about it, too, is if I have that detail, that's what makes the world really immersive, and that's what helps players really fall into their character and get involved and invested in the story that they're playing. You know, if I can add that detail in there and have it ready to go, I find even players that aren't super into role-playing per se, they end up having a lot of fun with that kind of stuff. They love doing research. They love asking questions about the world. And if you kind of provide that, whether they realize it or not, they get into it. And I love seeing my players get into it with that kind of stuff. I really love seeing that type of stuff from my players. So I like to take the trouble to add that level of detail. So yeah, I don't know. That's my philosophy on it. Had to collect demigods from another plane and bring them back to their own world. Nice. That actually would be a really fun campaign mission. And that would be something that could definitely exist within my world. Like just somewhere around in here, maybe in one of these forests, there's some sort of like Feywild demigod or something like that that's kind of lost, and it just like turns into one big escort mission where the players are trying to escort like a child demigod or something like that through the mortal world where they're just like super unfamiliar and don't know what to do. Like weird Pokemon. That's rad. That's actually a really awesome idea. And it makes me think about how I really need to get my players to be willing to branch out from D&D standard, because there exists. I found it and I've saved it. And maybe I'll like try and remember to put up the link on my Discord or something like that. I have found someone made a Pokemon rules modification to D&D 5e. They made it, and I'll be goddamned if I'm not going to someday get a group of people together to play that and convince someone else to be the DM so that I can be a fucking Pokemon master, because god damn it, I want to play that game. Like, are you kidding me? It's everything I wanted as a child. So one of these days, it's going to fucking happen. One of these days, I'm going to make it happen. I've got a group of players. The group of players that I play with now, they're newer friends of mine that I met once I moved to the city that I live in right now in the real world. And when they first started, I was worried that it would just be kind of a one-off, because that none of them had really ever played D&D before. One of them had played like twice. And so, but they kind of, as a group of friends, they were like, I knew them, friend of a friend situation, and they knew that I did D&D, and they were kind of collectively as friends, they were like, this would actually be kind of fun for us to do. We should do this. They got a hold of me, and I was like, we'll see if it sticks. And it's a year later, and they're still super into it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to get them through this campaign, because we're really just getting into the meat of the campaign that I have them doing right now, which is a really fun, Legend of Zelda Wind Waker type of thing. They're pirates. They're over in this area. They're like pirates collecting up things to eventually find a treasure. It's super awesome. And they're getting super into it. And they're just childish enough that I think I could convince one of them to take a stab at trying to DM a Pokemon game so that I could be a fucking Pokemon master. And I can prove to the world that Charmander is the best starter by dominating with Charmander as a starter. Anyway, rant over. I'm a little too passionate about it, but god damn it. It's going to happen one of these days. Pokeball was a gauntlet. Cultist wanted from us. Nice. Charmander, hell yeah. Hell yeah, Charmander's the best. And I'm not even going to be fazed by you joking about it, because I am so convinced that Charmander's the best that instead of being fazed or upset or offended by it, if you're serious, you don't know what Charmander is, or you have disagreements about it, I will have this conversation. I will sit down and I will open that can of worms. I will die on this hill. And that's when the stream devolved from a writing one into a crazy man yelling into a screen about Pokemon. It was a good run while it lasted. All right, let's talk about Nureyev. Okay, so I'm immediately thinking that this man, Nureyev, he's a human. So Nureyev, I think, is going to be a human. Fire types and ghost types, yeah, I feel ya. I'm definitely a fire type first type. I feel like my second favorite type actually leans electric, but that's just because I love the angular designs of all of them, of all of the electric Pokemon. I think just the angular designs are so, like, I don't know, they're so cool to look at. I mean, like, fucking look at Jolteon's mane. Like, the thing is awesome. It's so rad. Anyway, I'm gonna do my best to not let this devolve into a Pokemon stream. False advertising. Someone's gonna come in here and be like, "What the fuck? He's not writing a world or playing D&D. What the hell is he talking about?" No, you don't have to apologize. Never apologize for bringing up Pokemon. Never ever apologize for that. If I want my stream to be focused, that's on me. I'm the one with the microphone here. Alright, anyway. Nureyev. let's see here. Nureyev is a human male. So Nureyev is definitely going to be a human. Nureyev is a human male who specializes in leather working. I'm feeling like he's a leather worker. And we're at the stage now. I talk about this all the time. I say it every time, but I'm gonna keep. I like to keep reiterating it so that way anyone who's coming in understands exactly how I approach my writing process. Because people ask about the templates, but it's the templates are only part of the equation for how I come up with the stuff that I do. My approach to writing things and adding detail is to stream of consciousness my stuff when I'm writing, and then edit it later if I need to. And for me, the reason I do that is because it overcomes the challenges of writer's block. Because I think a lot of times when people get writer's block, it's because they get caught up trying to plan out and make sure it's perfect from the get-go. And that's what'll give you that sort of analysis paralysis writer's block type of situation, because you're so focused on trying to make sure it's perfect and think about things from every angle that you just get overwhelmed and you'd never write anything down. And I'm fairly confident in saying that that's a problem a lot of people face, because it's a problem that I used to face all the time with writing until I learned how to just let myself all over the page, right? Not literally, sometimes literally. It depends on what I ate that day. But figuratively, just like vomit words all over the page. And then as I'm going, if I realize like, no, that's not right, go back and change it and try again. And then once I've got that paragraph, be like, all right, great, we can work with that. And then 9 times out of 10, what I'll find is like, that's perfect. That covers everything. Maybe I'll add a sentence there, here or there, just to flesh out something else I've thought of. But then that 1 time out of 10 where I go back and I'm like, this isn't quite what I want. Well, then you edit it. That's the writing process. That's what it is. Writing process, I've kind of learned, is like the majority of it actually isn't writing down. It's editing. You write down the rough idea, and then you edit 3 or 4 times until you have something exactly the way you want it, right? Like that's to me what the writing process is. And you can take that to the bank, because I haven't ever studied writing in any professional sense whatsoever. I'm just a hack. I'm a hack with a biology and chemistry degree and a master's degree in public health, who has never done anything with the arts, but spends a whole lot of time analyzing these things and doing it for fun. So I don't know. Maybe if you're a literature or a writing major, you know a whole lot more about it than me. But just from trial and error and practice, I found that that's one of the most important things, is to just be willing to just like, write down crap, stream of consciousness it, and then edit it. And editing ends up actually being the majority of the writing process. Changing things, getting things exactly right. If you're writing a book, I imagine it would be more about like getting the wording and the thesaurus, and the connotations and the denotations and connotations of your words exactly right. From a D&D standpoint and a world building standpoint, it's more about editing it until all of the details are properly cohesive and offer up exactly the amount of detail you want to give to the players versus how much detail you want for yourself. Like it's a different final product, but the process of just constantly editing it always seems to be the same to me. So that's what I'm working on here. That's what we're doing. Business admin with a minor in anthropology. See, exactly as much expertise in writing as me. It's perfect. We got a couple of professionals here. All right, so let's see here. So Nureyev is a human male who specializes in leatherworking. He comes across as being quite dull, as he is a quiet person who prefers to say little and get to work. So I'm just imagining him. He's just kind of a serious person who they come in, which is like, I kind of feel a little stereotypical, because goddamn if that doesn't describe every pop culture Russian character that's ever been in any American literature or movie or whatever, right? Like that's such a common trope. But like, I'm just imagining a guy like, yeah, exactly, man of action, small words. He just like, you go in and you're like, hey, I need a sword. And he says, okay, do you need big sword or small sword? And they're like, probably a small sword, I guess is what I'm looking for. Just like a, a single hand, sword. Okay, you want broad blade or rapier? It's like, I guess like a broad blade. Okay, you come back in 3 days, I have it done. And it's like, that's that. It will cost you this much gold. And it's like, that's that. That's what he does. It's like, it's not a cold personality. Like, he's not cold or angry. He gets to business. He's not someone who sits around making small talk, cracking jokes. He's just like, yep, this is the information I need. This is the information you need. Let's get to work. And that's just what he does. And so I should probably specify that here. So he comes across as being quite dull. He's a quiet person who prefers to say little and get to work. In reality, he is perfectly friendly. He's perfectly friendly, just not a fan of small talk. So that's his personality. I also like to add a little bit of history. In Fosvik, he was. So one thing that I'm trying to do with all of the shopkeepers, really any character that I add to this city, is describe them as people who weren't necessarily specialists in what they're doing now, but they did related work in the bigger city, and then they saw the opportunity to earn money and land, because that's what this city was born of. It was the leadership in Fusvik was like, hey, we're trying to get this trade route, which is going to be good for us and all of the other cities, but we're fronting this thing, and it's becoming too costly for us to supply it from all the way up here. We need this city. Here's a call to anyone in the city who is willing to go out and live a much less secure life, right? Because the bigger cities are where they have like large guarded walls and can really protect you from the wilds, as they're called, which is all of the dangerous parts that are that were hit much harder by the unhinging, right? So it's like, we will give you it, like, in exchange for going out and helping us establish this town, a small town in a very dangerous part that's going to be a much harder life, a much more dangerous life. In exchange, we will give you enough money that your family would be, like, you or your family would be, maybe not wealthy, but certainly upper middle class, returning to the city. Or if you choose to stay there once this task is done, you're guaranteed to have, like, basically all the land you want, because you're like the founders of the city, right? And so it's like, so the collection of people that are workers in this city are people who, for the most part, weren't actually specialists in whatever they're doing now, but they're capable of it, and because there's a need, they've learned and they've like kind of plugged the hole, so to speak. So with our boatwright, she was never actually a ship maker. She never actually built boats. She was a roofer. She was a carpenter and a roofer. And so, but because of her basic knowledge of woodworking, right, like generally how to woodwork and how to make things generally watertight, it wasn't that difficult for her to learn how to make at least passable boats. And she was the best at it in the city, and so just like by practice over the past year or so, she's gotten fairly good at it, and she's known as like the best boat maker in town. It's the best boatwright, right? And so it's like, that's kind of the thing that I'm trying to do with these guys. So like when I think about Nureyev here, who was our leather worker, building, doing things for weapons, my thought is that he was maybe a leather worker, but actually in the city, he was much more on the like tailoring side of things, where he worked on very ornamented leather clothing, right? Leather, like he made ornamented leather belts, or ornamented gloves, things that were much less about utility and much more about fine appearance. And so he would always be, like working with smaller pieces of leather to make these specific things, and then that leads to him being pretty good as a leather worker for weapons, because weapons don't often have, some weapons do, but most weapons don't actually require a whole lot of utility from their leather. The leather is much more about just like making the grip just right, for a sword or something like that. And so that translates well because he's used to working with smaller pieces of leather, right? Working with softer leather that's maybe more about comfort, which is an important thing for a hilt. things like that. So that's kind of the history I'm thinking of with this guy. So in Fosvik, he was a decently well-known maker of fine leather garments, such as ornamental belts and gloves. When he answered the call to join the efforts, during the effort to build Novotroykladny. That's our city name. For anyone who's not aware of it yet, Novotroykladny. I've gotten quite good at saying it. It took me a while to be able to just say it offhand like that. Kind of proud of that, actually. That's like a skill at that point. When he answered the call to join the effort to build Novotroykladny, that's kind of a clumsy sentence, but we'll leave it. He did so not truly knowing what his role in the city or in the new town would be. After all, this was to be a small farming and fishing village with little need for fancy dress. However, upon arrival, actually, here's what we're going to say. However, even on the journey south with the caravan, he began making a name for himself as someone who was skilled at what do I want to say? At working with leather in any capacity. Namely, his ability to make and repair grips on weapons and farming equipment. To make and repair grips on weapons and farming equipment that was both comfortable and visually appealing. I need appealing. Wow, I cannot spell appealing today, apparently. That's not an appealing trait for me, as someone who's trying to do a writing stream here. Huh. You guys see what I did there? I see what I did there. It was really lame. It was a terrible joke. Namely, his ability to make and repair grips on weapons and farming equipment that was both comfortable and visually appealing became his claim to fame. After arriving at the location for the new town, he was approached by a blacksmith and woodworker who wanted to open a shop, open a weapon shop that could service the guards of the town. Let's see here. Nureyev agreed and found himself voluntold to be. I love that it recognizes voluntold as a word. It doesn't red squiggle that. I love that. And found himself voluntold to be the, we'll put it in quotes, the foreman of the shop. Not because of any particular business acumen. Is that how you spell acumen? Acumen? There we go, there it is. But because his personality discourage. I actually like this idea. I'm just riffing this, but I like this. Oh shit! Oh shit! It's a raid! It's a raid! Oh god! Hi everybody! Welcome! Welcome! We're working on building we're working on building a weapons shop here. Oh god! Come to raid my ideas. Raid away! Raid away! Honestly, anyone who wants to take or leave ideas are welcome. That's like my favorite part of doing my writing streams here is sharing ideas. It's so much fun. So welcome all you crazy raiders, craters if you will. And I know I will. Welcome. We're working on a weapons shop for the campaign that I'm slowly building bit by bit. And we are right now fleshing out the idea for the owner of this weapon shop, the foreman, if you will. And we are just now describing how he came to be the foreman, which is not because he's particularly good at operating a business, but because his personality discouraged excessive arguing or haggling from patrons. Boom. OneNote is way more organized. The organization of my OneNote is the product of years and years of trial and error. It's something that I have just like, because I've been using OneNote to write my D&D stuff. Like I've been doing world building for at least almost a decade, if not a full decade at this stage of my life. It's hard for me to remember exactly when I first created an environment or an atmosphere or whatever, but I've been doing it for basically a decade, and for much of that time I have used OneNote as my primary note-taking source. And so what would have started as just a complete and utter chaotic mess has slowly become organized as I've learned what works best for me, both in terms of streamlining the writing process as well as streamlining the DM process, right? And that was because I was a world builder before I was a DM. But then when I became a DM, it became not just a matter of what helps me get ideas down, but what helps me find and bring them back up when I'm DMing. So thank you, and yes, it's a product of trial and error coming up with this level of detail of things. And even this isn't perfect, but it's the best that I've come up with so far. So, like I say, steal any ideas that you want to. We've already had the discussion. One of these days I do intend to put all of my templates and stuff that I use in a shared OneNote notebook that people can take from freely if they want to. One of these days I will figure out how to do that. But first, that depends on me one of these days having some time off, which is, as of right now, not going to be at least until mid-September, because even all of my weekends are completely booked up now through mid-September. Because when you live alone in a city far away from all of your family, it becomes expected that you drive hours to visit family every weekend when they're doing crazy things on the weekends, especially after, when this part of the world is winding down from all of the quarantines and everything, and everyone is now scrambling to do all of their baby and wedding showers every single goddamn weekend of the summer. So, at any rate, one of these days, I will try and make it available. But that day is not today, unfortunately. I apologize. Hold on, I gotta do something real quick. I'm gonna sit right here and I'm just gonna babble awkwardly while I do it. But to almost as if on cue, to emphasize my busyness, I am kind of juggling a couple things right now. It's my life. Finding old notes and weird names and stuff from months back is a nightmare. Yeah, 100%. That was the issue I always had. Trying to remember, where the hell did I say that? I know I wrote down a detail about that one character. Where the hell did I put that? And so that's where I came up with, my, if we go to my foes and friends, I've got a character template, right, that I use for just writing characters. So that way it's always the same thing. Hey, thank you for the follower. For the follower. Thank you for being a new follower. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate you. I'm glad you're here. Faux show. But yeah, coming up with templates and organizing them in a consistent way has been the most helpful thing, because now I know exactly where to look if I'm trying to find something. I know exactly where I save different bits of detailed information, and it's been one of the biggest improvements of my writing and DMing career. I don't do it professionally, but my chill fellow DMs. Man, if you want to survive as a DM, you kind of have to be chill. If you want to survive and have success as a DM, you have to be chill. You have to know how to roll with the punches. You really do. Because players, no matter how hard you try, players will always find a way to just like fuck up everything that you try to do. So the best you can do is enter a certain level of insanity that I have in terms of prep and come up with all of this detail, all of this level of detail for prep, and then accept that even with all of that detail, they will still find ways to mess with it, you know. And so you just have to understand the systems well enough to just just kind of like yes and your way through it, and then add the notes after the fact later. It's the best you can do. It's the absolute best you can do. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's just my approach. So yeah, I appreciate you being here, and I'm glad that you like the way I'm doing things here. It's flattering to me. But what we're working on here, we're making a shop owner named Nuryev Mikhailovich, pronounced probably in an extremely offensive way to anyone who is Russian or of Russian descent. But I'm an American, and it's my job to insult people culturally. Otherwise, am I really a true American? Am I really doing my job right as a natural-born American if I'm not accidentally or intentionally insulting someone somewhere? I don't know. If I've learned anything from observing my fellow Americans, it's that it is my job to be as irritating and abrasive as possible. So I'd like to think that I'm just nailing it, honestly, and just getting it done exactly right. Personality quirks of Nuryev here. Very, very quiet. He is perfectly friendly, but not interested in small talk at all. That's Nuryev. Oh, that's the guy. So his reception to haggling. So these are details. Like I say, I'm creating a shop owner here, and so all of these details that I'm adding are things that I find are important for me to have written down, so that way when my players come to this shop, I can provide a consistent and predictable experience for them. Because if there's one thing that I get irritated with myself about as a DM all the time, it's if I can't keep the NPCs straight in my head and have them either bouncing between various extremes in terms of personality, or going the opposite direction and having them all just sort of fall into like one generic shopkeeper archetype. And the reason that bothers me is because that's so boring. It's so boring. It's so much more fun and flavorful if there are like unique, hey, thank you for the follower. Or, why do I keep saying that? Damn it, I'm tired. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. And I'm glad you're here. It means a lot to me. But yeah, I don't know. It's so much more fun and lively and immersive for players if I give them a consistent but varied experience with the NPCs, right? So if I make NPCs just these like varied, unique characters, but they stay the same throughout, you know, like that's just, players love that shit. They love that shit. They love knowing what to expect when they go to a shop, because it helps them sort of create a roleplay experience where they're like, okay, this guy doesn't like to haggle, so I'm gonna have to approach it this way if I want to cut a deal with him, things like that. So, oh yeah, I'm glad. I'm actually really glad to hear that people are liking and are inspired by my use of OneNote. Because one of the things that I really wanted to achieve when I started streaming my writing process is to just help other people see methods in action on how you can approach writing and DMing. And so I'm glad I'm glad to see that other people agree that OneNote is a good way to do it, because I don't know, it's the best I've found. There's all kinds of different tools out there, but it's the best I've found. Oh yeah, so you use it yourself. Yeah, it is. Like it really is. It's like, for me, what it is is I can organize it the way I'd want to organize like a notebook, but because you're not like stuck with a permanent number of pages between sections of a notebook, you know, you can add pages in exactly where you need them or take them out, right? So it's just like it's a notebook that you're not beholden to a set number and subdivision of pages. And that's what I like the most about it, because before this, my favorite way to do it was to just have composition notebooks that I would break up into different sections and add notes and write things down in appropriate sections. But it becomes really clumsy, because like for this campaign, you might need fewer characters than you ended up providing, or you might need more pages in a section than you ended up providing, and then you're fucked. You know, so like for a while then I was using binders that I could add in lined and graphed paper, and I really liked that. But then what I found is like, shit, that's a lot of time, and I get a lot of hand cramps handwriting all that stuff. So then OneNote comes along, and it's like bada bing, bada boom. I can type it all up. It's all there. Easier to edit a page that I've already written. I mean, there it is. There it is. So, yeah, highly recommend the use of OneNote. Oh, there's my kitty. There's my cat's tail. She's going to stand here. Yeah, she's going to do what she always does and stand right in front of the screen so that I can't see anything. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to pet her. She is now, yep, here we go. She is now going to try and lay down all over the keyboard, which she knows bothers me. Yeah, there you are. And then I'm going to move her, and she's going to get very mad at me, because how dare I move her? She's turned away from me, and she's got her ears back. She knows that I'm making fun of her right now, so she's pouting because of it. I know, kitty. I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry. No, you cannot lay on the keyboard. Why don't you come sit on my lap? Come sit on my lap. That's a better spot for you, because then you're out of the way. You can get the attention that you're so desperately craving. You can steal the show. It's supposed to be my stream. You don't even do anything, and yet you come in here and you steal the show. Little one-eyed cretin. And I sit here and pretend to be upset about it and complain about it, but the truth is, if I wanted to stop it, I could. But I'm not going to, because I actually secretly adore this cat. And I'm 100% enabling this behavior by pulling her onto my lap, giving her scritches, and rewarding her for coming up here and laying all over my keyboards. C'est la vie. She's my little baby. She's my little baby. And she recently, actually, she just turned 4 not long ago. Isn't that right, little girl? Yeah, we had her 2-year her 2-year, what was 2, yeah, it's 2-year gotcha day not long ago. God, COVID makes time weird. Had her 2-year gotcha day about a week ago, and her birthday is close enough to that we just kind of use it, because she was a stray, and so they just kind of aged her the best they could, and when they first found her as a little kitten. So yeah, I know, 2 years. 2 years you've been getting all up in my grill. That's actually not true at all. When I first got her, she was incredibly timid and terrified of everything. I brought her home. I brought this cat home in August. I didn't see her at times other than meal times, because she would hide. She would hide, and she would only come out at meal times. So I brought her home in August, and I didn't see her outside of meal times until after Christmas, because she would go and hide. It took that long for me to earn her trust, and then she started coming out, of her shell a little bit, and now here we are. It took 2 years, but she actually, for the first time yesterday, allowed me to pet her from standing, like I was standing, and I walked up to her and started petting her. That was the first time she's ever let me do that. First time she ever let me do that, because whenever I walk up to her, she always runs away, because she's like such a timid cat, and like, life as a stray. She was so timid and afraid of that. She did that. She would just run away and hide. She got so used to that. But now look at, here we are. And anyway, I'll drop the subject and get back to actually writing, which is what you guys are actually here for. It's just she's my little fur ball, and I actually really like her. And I just had to brag about her. She's basically my child. Like, basically you just got my version of, do you want to see pictures of my kids? And then pulling out the wallet-sized photos. Although nowadays it's more about phones on like pictures on the phone, but whatever. Anywho, hold on, wait, what am I supposed to be doing here? Oh yeah, reception to haggling. Nuriev doesn't haggle. Period. If anyone wants to strike a bargain, they had better hope that Nuriev, Nuriev, goodness gracious, is homesick that day, and they can talk with one of the other craftsmen in the shop. There we go. Nuriev doesn't haggle. He doesn't do that. Creativity. Despite his reserved nature, Nuriev actually loves adding decoration and flourish to the things he makes. As a baseline, as he primarily serves guards in this town who only care for function, he spends his days keeping things very basic and functional. This means if anyone comes with a request for something specific and unique, he will be very excited and eager to accept the job. So despite him being sort of a quiet, almost severe type of person, request, if you come in and request something, he will be very excited and eager to accept the job. Which I think is actually kind of a fun quirk, because the way we've described this character so far is him being a rather severe person who, like I say, it's not really severe. He's just quiet. He's just quiet, doesn't do small talk, doesn't do any of that kind of stuff. Just kind of shows up, gets to work, and, doesn't say much. So most people would think of him as being a very, very severe type of person. But if you come up and say, like, hey, I need, like, a ceremonial sword, can you provide some sort of, ornamental hilt and pommel for this sword, he would be super eager to add some detailed stitched leathering to the grip, and, like, add some sort of, like, ornamental leather, stitched leather mark or something like that could, like, or a very ornamental sheath for the sword, something like that. Like, he would get super excited about that, and, like, you would actually see him kind of brighten up and be super excited about that, which I think makes the character a bit more fun. So there we have our character. I'm gonna add an extra section here based on how this shop is being designed. We're going off. Oh wow, I do not need 2 copies of that. Thank you very much. In fact, we don't even want 1. I just copied it for the sake of the formatting, because copy and paste is easier than going back and remembering how I formatted it. But let's do other craftsmen. And for these other craftsmen, I'm not going to put the same level of detail. I'm just going to do, like, the very basics. I'm just going to put it, like, a name, what they do, like their race notes, race and appearance notes. Are they dwarf? Are they human? Are they gnome? Whatever. Put that there. Are they man or woman? Just that kind of stuff. Just so that way I can have, like, a consistent thing. And then, like, 1 or 2 notes about their personality. Like, friendly, likes to haggle. Quiet, like Nuria. Something like that. I haven't decided on any of that stuff yet. But we need 2 more, because this is a weapon shop, right? Um, and so we've got a woodworker as like the lead craftsman. I'm thinking a woodworker, a blacksmith, and then Nureyev as the leather worker, right? So we need a blacksmith and a blacksmith and a wood carver. Hi, kitty. You're gonna stand in front of the screen again. Got tired of, being out of the way on the on my lap, and instead are gonna sit up here and get up in my grill. That's fair. So let's see here. So for the you know what she's gonna do? You guys can't see it because she's on the other monitor, but she is now tracking the mouse, and she's probably gonna start pawing at the screen, which is both adorable and irritating as all hell. Kitty. Honey, I will move you if you get too disruptive. It will happen. Okay, let's so for the blacksmith, we've got a high dwarf population in this town, right? And we need a blacksmith. I feel like my hands are kind of tied. It's gonna be a dwarf. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Gonna be a dwarf. So let's go to our fantasy name generators here. Let's go to fantasy and folklore, and let's go with dwarf names here. Let's see here. Blessed Pike, Hard Brewer, Boulder Spine. They've got such cool last names. Light Coat, Opal Granite. I like Granite Toe. I like that one. Although that would be a better one for the armorer, right? Because you can make like steel-toed boots. Yeah. Granite Toe makes like reinforced toed boots or something like that. That'd be kind of fun. I don't know. Let's another one. Bulgur. Oh, I like Bulgur. Immediately like Bulgur. Bulgur Battlehide? That just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? Bulgur Battlehide. We're totally going to make him the blacksmith. That sounds awesome. I'm doing it. I'm locking it in. Bulgur Battlehide. Here, hold on. I want to put Bulgur Battlehide. Dwarven blacksmith. Yeah, that was your tail knocking stuff off, wasn't it? I know, you startled yourself. This cat, man. Okay, so Bulgur Battlehide, Dwarven blacksmith. I'm gonna say specializes in axes because dwarf. Duh. Boisterous, likes to poke fun at Nureyev, but it is all in good-natured fun. So they're like friends, and he's a boisterous person who will say jokes at Nureyev's expense, but it's like it's understood between him and Nureyev that he's just joking around. They're still buds. They're cool with it. It's good. So there's Bulgur Battlehide. Now we got to come up with a woodworker. I kind of want to go. I want to step away from the human and dwarf because I've pretty much exclusively done humans and dwarves for shopkeepers so far. I almost want to go with like an elf, right? Because if we're thinking about this area, right? So here's our area. Kind of like how this mountain range was once dwarven territory, this forest was once elven territory, and many elves during the unhinging also fled up north, which is where Fossvik is, which is where the origin of this little town is right here. So it's a long way traveled, but there would be elves up there, and so yeah, we'll say it's an elven woodworker who was exceptionally good at crafting bows. And so they learned how to do a couple other things like crossbows and just like weapon handles in general, for like axes and maces and all the like. So let's do an elf here. So let me see here. Elf names. So what we got here? Ed Weird. Who's Ed? I don't know. He's a little weird. He's Ed Weird. Oh, God. Qatar. Orion. I don't know, like I have in my mind for this guy, he's like an older gentleman with like he's a bespectacled gentleman who's pretty serious, kind of more like Nureyev. kind of a serious person, not a whole lot of humor, but very skilled at woodworking. So let's see here. Lorsan, Gorman is pretty good. Gorman does kind of give you the feel of like an older gentleman who's just kind of serious, right? Like he kind of fits. Gorman does kind of fit that, right? Because you know how some people, they're just like destined to be a certain type of person based on their name alone. You could just tell. Kind of like how, yeah, exactly. Kind of a butler, like a Alfred the Butler type of personality. But it's like some people just sort of like, based on their names, they always just seem destined to live the life that they live. For example, when I was in middle school, there was a teacher. Her name was Mrs. Boring. I mean, come on, man, come on. What other thing could you do as Mrs. Boring? You know, like you were gonna have to be some sort of lecturer. That's just how it was gonna have to be. Yeah, right. Seriously, Mrs. Boring. She was very friendly. She was one of those teachers where like no one would call her their favorite teacher, but no one really disliked her either. She was just, yeah, she was an average teacher. She was good. You know, she's just your run-of-the-mill teacher. But yeah, Mrs. Boring. Gorman something. Gorman. Okay, hold on. Let's write down Gorman, and then we'll come up with a last name for him. Gorman. Oh, they have Gorman. Gorman. Oh, he's Gorman. He's not Gorman. He's Gorman. To elongate the O. I don't know. I'm just gonna keep searching for random last names here. Gorman. I don't know. Gorman Dorgella. Gorman Vara. Gorman Vara. It's not terrible. I don't know. Gorman Hermoira. Ravamanor. I'm gonna shorten that. I'm gonna do like Gorman Ravamore. Ravamor. I don't know. That sounds kind of flowy to me. Ravamore. Gorman Ravamore. Elven woodworker. Specializes in bows. Serious older gentleman. How'd you describe butler like? Let's do quotes. Butler like in personality. Yeah, I like that. And that gives us our little our merry band of weapon makers. It's perfect there. And now we just have to talk about the community the community response. Like, how did the community very attentive, loves details. Yeah, I imagine he would. I'll put down attentive, specializes in bows, attentive to details. That's a good point. That's a good way to describe him there. That's a good note for the sake of, triggering sort of the memory and understanding of how I want this character to be. So that's good. So now for the community. Let's see here. I'm going to say the community is rather indifferent to the shop. They don't make waves, and most people have little need for their products unless they are a guard. That said, many people have found that Bulger can make a hell of a wood axe. Wait, hold on. Wood axe. Gorman makes excellent wooden tools, and Nureyev is unmatched in his ability to make soft yet durable working gloves. The store is seen as a practical necessity, though the overall serious tone of the shop makes it not a, quote, destination for those looking for a charismatic shopping experience. So it's just like it's a functional shop. You know, it's like a grocery store. It's like people appreciate that they produce good work, but it's, you know, there's nothing exciting happening there. It's just work. And so people appreciate that for what it is, but no one, like if someone comes into town, it's like, what's the best place to go? No one's gonna point to this place. So there we go. So now the last thing we need to do is we need to name the shop here. And because given the serious nature of these guys, I don't imagine that they are going to be particularly interested in sort of a pun type of name, which are usually my favorite shop names. But given these guys, I feel like they would go like almost the law practice approach and just do like Nureyev, Bulgar, and Gorman, you know, or something like that for the weapons. You know, they would just like name it after themselves. That, or they would just, you know, come up with something standard like the weaponsmith or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. How do I feel about these guys? I feel like, especially with Nureyev being sort of the front man of the shop, I feel like he would almost feel like it's a little too egotistical to put his name in there. So I feel like he would do weapons and working tools or something like that. Would just be the name of the shop, like weapons and weapons. Hold on, we gotta stylize this. Weapons and working. Weapons and work tools. There we go. Weapons and work tools. Like he would just like this is what we sell. We sell weapons and work tools. You see a sign, you know exactly what you find. And like that's just what he would do. And Bulgar would make a joke about how that's so generic, but would secretly appreciate the sort of charm involved in something so simple and generic. And Gorman would just give a nod and be like, "Yes, this is a good name." And like that's what it would be. Weapons and work tools. So we're gonna call this the weaponsmith. It's kind of inherent in the title there, but there we go. So yeah, sweet. Okay, so we've got the meat and potato, or not really the meat and potatoes. That's not the right analogy. There's not the right turn of phrase. We've got the core. That's kind of more what I'm trying to say. We've got the core of this thing done. What's left is to make a small map of the shop, so that way if players decide they want to try and rob it or cause a riot or something like that, I've got a battle map for them to deal with. And then, of course, we're going to have to do the inventory. But I'm looking at the time, and it's almost 1:30, which means it's almost time for me to cut it out with the writing stream and switch over to my video game stream. So, yeah. Sweet. But we made some good progress. And had some cool conversations about different DMing philosophies and stuff. I really dig it. This was a good stream. I dig it. And it was a good stream, largely thanks to all of you guys in the audience. Wow, what a great audience. Like my quick opinion? Yeah, sure. Go for it, Mr. Whale. Character Tufum Cog Turner. Okay. Yeah, that is a character. In my opinion, that sounds like a character. Goliath, artillerist. Oh, okay. All right. Heavy from Team Fortress 2. Okay. All right. I have no regrets. Here's what I'll say. If it works in the game and you have fun playing with that character, then by all means go for it. The one thing that I always tell people, though, is be careful making a character that is focused around a gimmick. Be careful doing that. It is much better to make a character that has a goal instead of a gimmick. So when you say that you have, the heavy from Team Fortress 2, that's great, but you run the risk of pigeonholing yourself into having a one-trick pony. He waits for the chance to, use his spell gun like you're saying here, to create the strongest magical firearm known to man. Okay, so that goal is something better to work with. The reason that I say that, and I say this a lot, the reason that I say that is if a character doesn't have a goal, they basically turn into a one-trick pony that sits quietly and waits for the opportunity for them to do their goofy gimmick. So it's like if he didn't have a goal as part of his character, all he would do is he would sit quietly, follow the team around until suddenly you're in battle, and then he would shoot his cannon, right? And that's all he would do. And you as a player would get tired of that really quick. But because you have that goal there, that make the strongest magical firearm, that gives him something that he's interested in. He's pushing for that. If there's an opportunity for him to gain some knowledge about magic in some way, shape, or form, or some way for him to build this weapon or whatever, that gives him something to push for. That gives him some personality. So and so if you like the character, then that's great. And because you have a goal, I would say good. That's good. If the goal weren't part of it, I would say get a goal. Otherwise, like I say, that you run the risk of, because like you say, using the heavy quotes, that's great. 2 years from now, doing that is the same thing for the character. Is it going to get old? And if for you and your team it doesn't, then awesome, do it. But when a character is primarily about a gimmick, you run the risk of it getting boring and old. So that's it never has gotten old. Well, then great. Then don't listen to me. Then tell me to fuck off and don't listen, right? But that's just my opinion, based on my experience. But with that, it is, like I say, it's getting towards 1:30 here. I got to end my stream because I got to take a bit of a break here. I'm going to take like a 10-15 minute break, and then I will be back for my video game stream, is what's going to happen. But as far as the writing stream goes, thank you everyone who stopped by. I appreciate you guys. It's the streams are the most fun when we've got people coming in here sharing ideas. I think it's great fun. I love doing it. Upcoming this week, tomorrow is Wednesday. I do not stream on Wednesdays. I am going to be out of town for a work function, actually. I've got some training that I have to go to, which is going to be fun. It's going to be fun and nice because it's outdoors, so I won't have to sit in a hall with a mask on all day long. So I got that going for me, which is nice. But I will be gone tomorrow. No stream tomorrow on Wednesday. I will be, as of right now, I will be able to be back Thursday and maybe Friday to do some more streaming. So if you want to catch more writing, come back Thursday and possibly Friday. Be happy to have you guys join along. I think it's awesome that people are interested. I'm super flattered by it. If you have other ideas that you want to run by me, but you don't know if you're going to be around for the streams or anything like that, I do have a Discord. Feel free to join the Discord. I will, at some point, probably tonight, get everyone who's joined up verified, so that way you guys can come in and we can share ideas, and that way ideas can sort of be discussed outside of the stream, not necessarily because I have a problem discussing them during the stream, but so that way it's not like, okay, we've got this small window of opportunity and then the idea is forgotten about, right? We can discuss ideas and hammer them out that way. So if that's something you're interested in, that's available, and we can do that. Yeah, otherwise, if you want to stick around and just listen to me ramble and babble about random shit while I play video games, I'm going to pull out, we just finished Mass Effect 2, so I will not be playing Mass Effect 2 for the first time in like a month and a half, and instead I pulled up kind of a collection of different roguelike games, and so I'm just going to put one of those on, play those. We're just going to play some simple roguelike, games that aren't really about beating a story, just for a bit of a palate cleanser before we start Mass Effect 3. But that will be happening in about 15 minutes. I'm going to take a bit of a break, rest my voice, grab a snack, refresh my beverage, just, take care of myself a little bit here, and then I'll be back for that. If that holds no interest for you, that is totally fine. I am not offended by that, and I will instead hopefully see you next time for the next writing stream. But either way, you guys are an awesome audience. I appreciate each and every one of you. You guys are what makes this really fun for me. So I hope to see you again next time. I can't wait to see you next time. Until then, take care of yourselves. All right, there's the end stream button. Okay, bye guys. Bye. I'll see you soon.